Alrighty, so I'm back doing News of the Week episode on Thursday because yesterday I did had a root canal procedure, and since I was numb doing that procedure, and when you of course get numb doing a dental procedure, it's going to take a couple of hours before it wears off, and I wasn't able to kind of talk normally. And not to mention, I also want to not talk too much yesterday because a root canal procedure is definitely serious, and I will say that at least from what everybody have said, that procedure is very scary. It actually wasn't. I mean, it actually was nothing more than a filling, though I do not recommend for anyone to ever have to do a root canal procedure, especially at my age. This is very young for me to do a root canal procedure, and a lot of that has to do with when I wasn't able to protect my teeth very well when I was young. But that's another story for another day, and that today we're going to talk about some of the news that has happened in this past week, and there's definitely some big news that has happened in this past week. And we start off with talk about two head coaches that have been fired in this past week. And while everybody know that Matias Almeyda was fired by the San Jose Earthquakes, and I did a video about that, a lot of people knew that we were also going to get another head coach that was being end up on the chopping block. And that head coach is Hernan Losada, who DC United decided to fire him after just 15 months in the job. Now, there was no doubt that the DC United fan base were absolutely upset about this firing. And I did say before that, when DC decided to hire Hernan Losada and how, they went through that expanded kind of coaching search that took a very long time, and then it kind of out of nowhere they decided that, we're just going to choose Hernan Losada, even though he wasn't really kind of the guy that we've been considered doing this expansion coaching search. I talked about how this front office need to get it right, because if they don't get it right, the fans are going to turn on the front office, and it's not a big surprise that the fans are turning on the front office. And for Losada, I mean, I feel like this firing has a lot to do with the fact that there's been a power struggle between him and the front office, and in some ways kind of similar to the situation with Almeyda, where Almeyda seems to have a power struggle with the front office, and the only difference is that the Quakes of course dragged it for so long, whereas here for DC they didn't even want to drag this too long. They want to just fire him immediately. And not to mention, I have heard some players have mentioned that they do not like playing under Losada, especially the high pressure kind of system that Losada tends to like to run with his team. And it seems like the front office kind of had no choice but decided to fire him. But that being said, this also goes back to the fact that yeah, I mean, when you go through such a long coaching search as they done previously, and they literally just fire a guy after they thought that they made the right candidate, it's no doubt the DC fans are very upset about the front office. And now you just think, well, what are they going to do now? Like, are they going to once again do what they did last time, doing a long coaching search, and finally found the actual guy? And by the way, the amount of head coach that's been linked with the DC United job is very similar to the Quakes head coaching search. I mean, there's been rumors that maybe Hugo Perez could be coaching DC United, and even Luchi Gonzalez could come in to coach this DC United team. But as of now, yeah, I mean, it's kind of disappointed that Hernan Losada didn't quite work out with DC, because I definitely saw his vision and what he did last season, and really kind of almost guided this team to make it to the playoffs. But it's no surprise that when he basically had no backing whatsoever, the system did not work. And when he decided to kind of criticize the front office to do so, and I would at least say that at least Hernan Losada has a right to kind of criticize the DC front office, because I mentioned before with Almeyda of how it's kind of a double-edged sword with the way that, yes, I know the Quakes ownership is cheap, but Almeyda has been able to spend hundreds and millions of dollars to get his guy. That cannot be said about Losada. I mean, he hasn't really been giving any money to improve his team, and rightfully so. That I feel like he kind of had more rights to be criticizing the front office. But like I said before, unless you're the Quakes front office, if you decided to criticize the front office, especially the spending, and especially publicly said it as what Losada has done before, you're going to get the chopping block. And this is not a big surprise that eventually it did happen. But Another thing that I also would say is that I am going to make a video talk about Hernan Losada, and that we'll talk about his 15-month tenure, which again the during his time, usually when a head coach get let go so soon, that their tenure with a team has been absolutely disastrous. That isn't kind of the case. I mean, I thought Losada has done a very good job for DC, but again, this power struggle is kind of the reason eventually DC decided that they're no longer going to deal with it and decide to cut their losses. Now, moving on in terms of the next news and talk about some injury news. Atlanta United goalkeeper Brad Guzan. So the worst case scenario did happen. We heard about how Guzan kind of had to. I think he from what I heard, he had to kind of be carted off in the last game, and that there's even talks that it might have been an Achilles injury, which whenever you say the A word, yeah, something bad is going to happen, and indeed that is the case, as he officially is done for the season after rupture his Achilles tendon. And you wonder, is this going to be the last time we're going to see Brad Guzan, not only with Atlanta United, but maybe in his playing career? I mean, it always sucks to see a player have their career ended because of an injury, but Brad Guzan is definitely up to that age, and when you're up to that age in your late 30s, it's very hard to try to recover from a season and ending injury like that. So yeah, we'll see whether or not, if this is maybe the last time we're going to see Brad Guzan, and not to mention the fact that his contract actually is up this year with Atlanta United. I'm assuming maybe Atlanta is going to be moving on from him. There's already some rumors that they're going to sign a new goalkeeper, and one of them, as I mentioned before, was them potentially signing Ethan Horvath as their replacement goalkeeper. But yeah, very sad to see him done for the season, and if this is going to be his career, what a legendary career Brad Guzan has had. I mean, he's not going to be a guy that will be remembered as the same as what Tim Howard has done to the U.S. men's national team. And in some way, Brad Guzan has always kind of been in the shadow of Tim Howard. But let's also not forget what Guzan has done, and just such an incredible career that he has. Though, again, we'll see whether or not if that is going to be the case. And maybe it won't be the case, because, when you're a goalkeeper, you tend to have a longer lifespan in terms of your playing career. And maybe Brad Guzan can easily come back from this injury, and maybe if Atlanta does let him go, I won't be surprised there are going to be some teams in MLS that desperately need a decent goalkeeper. Might sign Brad Guzan as a free agent and play them next season. Now, moving on in terms of next news, and now talk about some reports. So last week we talked about the situation with Carlos Vela, and it seems like LAFC is very close in terms of contract extension. Well, this week, it's pretty much confirmed that it is almost going to happen. In fact, in these upcoming days or even weeks, that LAFC is set to sign Carlos Vela to a new contract extension. But we got some more news in terms of what this contract extension is going to look like. It's going to actually run till the end of it's going to run till 2023. I'm not sure is it the end of the 2023 season, but one thing for sure is that we know that Carlos Vela is going to be at least be here until the end of the season, and maybe into next season. And that pretty much is quiet the talks of the fact that, Vela mentioned this could be his last season with LAFC. And there still could be a chance that he might decide to walk away from LAFC this off season and join another team. But, knowing the fact that a lot of people don't know, his contract actually ends in June. LAFC has been scrambling to try to sign him to a new contract, and it seems like it is about to be done in just the upcoming days. And maybe in the next news of the week, I'll pretty much just kind of confirm that he indeed has signed a contract extension. Now, moving on in terms of the other reports, we got DC United report to interest in signing Real Madrid winger Gareth Bale, and from what I heard, it seems like they're in the beginning of the process of trying to sign Gareth Bale on a free track. Bale's contract with Real Madrid, I believe, ends at the end of this season in La Liga, so it's not a big surprise that there are some MLS team that's been rumored to get him. And not to mention, for a long time now, I mean, I've always mentioned, I think in a lot of the news of the week episode, that Gareth Bale might be a player that's come to MLS. Seems like this might be the closest that is going to happen. And keep in mind, it's hard to believe, but Bale is still only 32 years old. I mean, it feels like he's been in the game of soccer for a very long time, but he's still at an age where he is definitely way past his prime, but not in a way where it's gonna be similar to when DC decided to sign Wayne Rooney, where I think Wayne Rooney was like 33 or 34 when they signed him, and this could be the same case. And not to mention, I think this is also DC trying to give their fans, this front office know that they're definitely taking a lot of heat from the fans, especially with the firing of Hernan Losada. So this is maybe just kind of a way to deflect that, and maybe just to give some of their fans a little bit of hope. The fact that they're gonna bring in a big name star that will get butts in the seats at Audi Field. But again, is this going to solve the issue that this team has on the attack? No. I mean, I think Gareth Bale will definitely do well in this league, but we said this before many times. Whenever you have an age-old European superstar player, we've seen in these past couple of years that it just does not work, and it's getting to a point where I know there's still going to be some Euro snub that's going to look at this signing as an example of why MLS still hasn't learned the fact that they are going to be considered a retirement league because of making these signings. But my argument for that is that this league is no longer a retirement league, because you don't see a lot of these teams relying on these age-old players, and in many ways these kind of players that they try to sign are really only for marketing reason, and not really for a reason to build a decent team around, and maybe he could compete, because again, some of these players that have come into the league, they haven't really found a lot of success, as if that could have been the case maybe about 5 years ago. And likewise, there is another report suggests that Juventus defender Giorgio Chellini is considered an MLS move in the summer, and this is also another move that could happen, because Chiellini contract with Juventus is going to end at the end of the summer, and there is definitely a lot of people suggesting that this is going to be his last season with Juventus, and Juve even is starting to think about making a big celebration in terms of Chiellini leaving the team, because he's just such a legend to Juventus of all these years. But if this of course would happen, it's going to be interesting to see which MLS team is going to do. Again, with Chiellini, he is definitely much older than Bale. I think he's going to be like 38, and I would say maybe he got 1 or 2 year left, but I won't be surprised if there is going to be some teams around the league, especially teams that struggle in the defensive end. I'm looking at San Jose Earthquakes that is decided to sign Chiellini. Now, actually, I shouldn't say the Quakes are going to get Chiellini, because imagine if that does happen. I mean, the Quakes have not made a big name player signing in such a long time. If that is going to be the case, I would be shocked at that if they decide to bring in Chiellini. I mean, if that's the case, that definitely will help out the defense, at least shoring up for the first couple of years. But don't be surprised if there's going to be some team, and especially some big market team, and some teams that really heavily rely on kind of these age-old player to get fans in the seat. I mean, teams like the LA Galaxy might be in interest in Chiellini, consider they also have issue in terms of defense heading into this season. Now, moving on in terms of next news. So Chicago Fire goalkeeper Gareth Bale is reported that he's going to actually be called up by the Poland national team. Now, I know there's a lot of U.S. men's national team that are freaking out about this, but mind you, FIFA, of course, have recently changed the rule where, you're not going to be capped tied to a national team unless you play free matches with the team, and I believe you appear with the team for free time, and as long as you are not going to be older than 21 years old, you can always change the national team. So if Gaga Selena is going to the Poland national team, because remember, Selena is eligible with the Polish national team and also the U.S. national team. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if this does happen, and that, again, I've said this many times with a lot of dual national players that has a chance to represent the U.S. or representing another country. It's all up to them. I respect their decision of which country that they decide represent. I mean, ideally, I want them to represent the U.S. national team, and especially Chellini will be definitely a guy that will really help to solve a problem that the U.S. are going to have to face in this World Cup, which is the goalkeeping position. But if Chellini decide to go to the Polish national team, I have no problem with his decision. But again, I'm pretty sure the U.S. men's national team is going to do every way to convince him to join the U.S. And I will say that the U.S. Soccer Federation, they've been very hit and miss in terms of convincing players. I mean, there's times they have done a good job in terms of convincing player. I mean, Ricardo Pepi was a great example how the U.S. Soccer Federation really worked on him a lot to convince him to join the U.S. instead of representing for Mexico. But then there's also cases where they let players join another team and they weren't able to convince them. A great example of that was a player named Jonathan Gonzalez, of how he had a lot of talent and could be eligible for the U.S. men's national team, and then they decided to let him or didn't really convince him to join the U.S. men's national team, and instead let him choose his second option, which is joining the Mexican national team. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and back to talk about reports. Atlanta United is reporting interest in Mallorca for Matthew Hoppe. Now, Matthew Hoppe, I think his hype has really died down ever since, he had that incredible run with Schalke, which is kind of the reason why he got into the U.S. men's national team in the Nations League and also in the Gold Cup. But ever since he has left Schalke to join for Mallorca, he has not gotten a lot of minutes. And I get that Atlanta United is desperate in terms of finding a replacement for Joseph Martinez, or well, not a replacement, but a guy that can back up Joseph Martinez when he is not healthy, and knowing the fact that now Joseph Martinez seems to be very injury prone, with him still recovering from a knee injury. They desperately need to look for a backup striker, and unsurprisingly, with them trying to hope that Dom Duar is the answer, yeah, it has not worked out so far for them. So, I'm not sure if this will work out either, because again, Hoppe hasn't really been getting a lot of minutes, and I don't know if Hoppe wants to come back to MLS, especially if he is going to try to get himself into the national team conversations again. I don't think being a backup striker for Atlanta United is going to help that cause, but who knows? Maybe he might be another player that maybe his European adventure is not working out, and maybe going back to MLS and decided to join a team and start to score goals again, and he can easily get himself back to the national team conversation. But it seems like this is just a move. If he is going to be going back to MLS, I don't think Atlanta United is the right team for him to consider. Again, if Joseph Martinez is back to this team, I don't think Matthew Hoppe is going to get a lot of minutes, and if he is going to get into the national team conversation again, he needs minutes, and he needs to score the goals like he did during last year, when he really kind of got hyped up because of how he was just scoring almost every week against a relegational bound team that is Schalke in the Bundesliga. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, is that Tati Castellanos win Player of the Week, which shouldn't surprise anybody, because not only the fact that he scored a hat-trick, but he also scored 4 goals. I mean, he become one of the few players in MLS to be able to reach that mark, and it's also an example that, that transfer fee is continue to rise, and that maybe this is the start that Tati Castellanos need in the league, because, in league plays, he hasn't really got off to the best of start, but, with him scoring 4 goals and have a goal scoring explosion that all of a sudden have now got him near the top 3 standings of the Golden Boot, don't be surprised that, his transfer fee is going to now be even up the roof, and that, again, now that NYCFC is no longer in CCL, I won't be surprised this is also a time where they're going to start listening to some offer from a lot of the team, whether in South America or Europe, potentially acquiring Tati Castellanos during the summer transfer window. And now moving on, in terms of the next news that is not related to some of the reports and signings that has happened this week, is the GA Cup. So I will admit, I actually didn't watch any of the GA Cup, and I feel guilty to not watch the GA Cup, because we talk about a lot of these youth team from MLS play in the GA Cup, and how there's a lot of these players that plays in the GA Cup turns out to be players that either play in MLS or maybe make the jump to Europe. So I feel like I need to, of course, watch that more, because don't be surprised if I see some of these players that is in the GA Cup that in the next couple of years, oh yeah, I remember that guy that played in the GA Cup and played for their youth academy and won the GA Cup that year. Now in this year's edition, it seems like how Cascadia seems to dominate MLS. At least we always seems to have at least one of these two Cascadia team, that is the Seattle Sounders and the Portland Timbers, making MLS Cup. Seems like it has now reached into the youth academy level, because the Sounders for the second year in a row won the U17 GA Cup, and the Portland Timbers actually won the U15 GA Cup. And I think that with the Timbers winning a U15 GA Cup, I think this is even more surprising than what the Sounders did win the U17 GA Cup, because everybody have talked about how the Sounders have really started to build a very good foundation in their youth academy. And I think this year it's shown again that last year's GA Cup that they won was not a fluke whatsoever. What is kind of interesting is that the Timbers able to win a youth tournament, because the Timbers have always been a team that has been lacking in terms of the youth development. And I think this is a huge statement win for them, and maybe this will be a way for them to start to kind of build their academy, and especially bring in some more homegrown to this team, because again, this is a team that is not known to bring a lot of homegrown player, and not known to eventually have a lot of these homegrown player and turns out to be successful in their team. But maybe this could be a start. And again, even though I didn't watch a lot of the GA Cup, I have read articles about the GA Cup, and there's definitely a lot of players that during the GA Cup. One thing is interesting is that not only they're playing against some of these MLS academy team, but they're also playing some of these big teams around the world from the academy. So teams like River Plate, Manchester United was also in the GA Cup, and this is why I now feel guilty of not watching it, because this is a chance for a lot of these players to not only show the scout that they have what it takes to have a successful career, but they're basically facing against the best team in the world, or facing against some of the well-known teams in the academy system, and that those teams are also kind of watching. I mean, those teams of course wants to develop their own player, but those other teams, they might even look at their opponent and say, hey, maybe this might be a guy that I might think about picking up to join our academy, because he tends to do well in the GA Cup and really lights it up. So that's why the GA Cup is actually something that again, I think I need to pay more attention to in the future, because this is really a competition where the future is there, and we will see some really good talent translate not only in MLS but even in the European League in the future. Now, moving on, in terms of next news, is that there is no League Cup this year, after it was announced that there instead is going to be a replacement of the League Cup called the League Cup Showcase between the two LA team and Chivas and Club America, that will be taking place at SoFi Stadium. And I believe this is actually going to be a doubleheader that's going to be happening in this, with the LA Galaxy taking on Chivas, and then Club America is going to be taking on LAFC. I mean, imagine if LAFC taking on Chivas. Cue all the Chivas jokes and how basically it's the same team playing against each other, or maybe some will say, hey, look, it's the feeder team playing against the team that basically owns them. But all kidding aside, obviously this is clearly a cash cow kind of well, I wouldn't even say a tournament. It's just like kind of cash cow doubleheader that the organizer of the League Cup basically decided to use. And in some way, I think there's also teams that it was supposed to involve in this year League Cup. They're not happy about this, because a lot. I know I've said before, the League Cup seems to be a bit of a cash grab, and that it seems like it's kind of a white elephant tournament. But knowing the fact that as the League Cup is going to expand, as they've already announced plan to do so and that there's going to be one of these teams that's going to go to be able to get a berth in the CONCACAF Champions League, maybe MLS team is going to take it much seriously. But as I said, this year it's not going to be the case because the tournament won't actually happen, and instead we just have a clear cash grab. And that I'm also going to be interesting to see how this doubleheader is going to go, and especially they better add some security in terms of it, because this could get ugly when you have not only two LA team being in the same building, but you also have the two fiercest Liga MX team in the same building too, and that's usually when that happens, it does not go well in terms of security wise. And from what I also heard about SoFi Stadium is that they haven't really done a good job in terms of the security front, at least when that stadium started to have full capacity. So yeah, I mean, this could be very interesting, and this is also why I am actually not going to be attending this game, because I know this is a game that it will be very tempted for me to go, because they experience the atmosphere, even though this is just kind of a friendly match. But also this could be a little bit dangerous, and I don't want to just go to a game and that I have to worry about the safety of myself. And I just feel like this is going to be one of those one where if I do go, I do worry about the safety of myself because of the way how this is it. But again, the other thing that maybe is a reason why I'm not attending this one is that, I tend to not want to go to games that is a clear cash cow, and especially this is only a week before the All-Star game is going to be happening in Minnesota, and I'm definitely saving some money in terms of attending that one a week later. But now moving on, in terms of the next news, we got the U.S. men's national team have announced that they're going to be hosting Morocco for an international friendly at TKO Stadium in June. And I know there was a lot of people that is not happy the fact that once again the U.S. are playing a home game in Ohio, and that in some way I do kind of agree, because I get it. They want to have the U.S. loves to play games either in Columbus, and now it seems like in Cincinnati, because it gives them a home field advantage. But this is an international friendly. Like, this basically means nothing. I wish they maybe go to another city to play these games, but at least if you're in the Ohio region, or if you live in Cincinnati or even in Columbus, you're probably happy the fact that you get to see the U.S. men's national team play once again. Now, speaking of the U.S., the U.S. Open Cup fourth round draw has been revealed, with one of the matchup actually being an all-USL League One match, which I think that is the first time that it has ever happened, where two third division team is going to be face off against each other in the fourth round. And this all happened because we actually had some cup upset in the third round of the U.S. Open Cup. And, I like the GA Cup. I didn't really watch as much of these U.S. Open Cup matches as I should be, though I did attend one of the U.S. Open Cup match when I attend the game between the Quakes and Bay City, which I was hoping that game would be one of the cup upset. No, the Quakes won 5-0 in that game against Bay City. But what was an upset is that we saw some upsets in terms of four games where these four MLS teams, that is Austin FC, Columbus Crew, Real Salt Lake, and the Chicago Fire, that was pretty much knocked out of the tournament in the third round. Austin, of course, lost to San Antonio FC in extra time. Chicago lost to Union Omaha in a PK shootout, which, by the way, that game, I did heard how that game, not only it went to a PK shootout, but it kind of went into a PK shootout in a dramatic way, with the way that Union Omaha literally scored a goal at the last second of the game to send that one to a PK shootout. So definitely a lot of drama that game has in that one. And then, of course, we also have what was it, the other team that I mentioned got knocked out? Oh, Columbus. Yeah, Columbus, of course, got knocked out by Detroit City, and I got to give a lot of props to Detroit City and the atmosphere that they had. I mean, that kind of atmosphere. You know how a couple of years ago when ESPN decided to have a U.S. Open Cup round of 16 game when FC Cincinnati was playing against the Chicago Fire, and that Nippert Stadium was basically packed, and that they had to had a broadcast game. I won't be surprised that they might do it again this time in Detroit, because that crowd in Detroit, yeah, it was something else. Like, it was packed to the raft, and they were definitely in party atmosphere when they saw their team able to win against the Columbus Crew and even come from behind win against the Columbus Crew. But probably the biggest upset from the third round of the U.S. Open Cup is Real Salt Lake losing to a team that only played their fourth game of their existence in Northern California, or not Northern California, Northern Colorado. No, Hailstorm. And that actually also turns out to be the second in ever win that Northern Colorado Hailstorm has ever had, and it was a game where Northern Colorado actually won it in regular time, and they score a banger goal around the 78th minute to advance in the next round, and that also is one of the team that is involved in that all USL League One match where you got Union Omaha playing against Northern Colorado Hailstorm, which I don't think a lot of people thought that was going to be a matchup that was going to happen in the fourth round. And also, I understand that. I know there's a couple of people that is frustrated that there seems to be a lot of all MLS matchup in the fourth round. The Quakes, unfortunately, it seems like their U.S. Open Cup journey could come to an end with them getting the worst possible draw of facing the Seattle Sounders on the road, while Minnesota, of course, playing against the Colorado Rapids at home. And I know that there's some Loons fans that they're happy the fact that it is at Allianz Field, but the problem is they would rather face a lower league team so that they can have some of the fans that goes to the stadium and create a good atmosphere. But one thing I will say that it's good, the fact that some of these games are all MLS matchup, is that at least you also have some of these games that is all USL Championship matchup. And as much as I would love to see an MLS team face against a lower league team in the fourth round, the reason why I like the fact that there's these kind of all MLS matchup and then all USL Championship, or even in one case an all USL League One matchup, is that it basically guaranteed that at least there's going to be a couple of lower league teams that gets into the fifth round. Because if you have a situation where it's basically going to be an MLS team facing against a lower league opponent every single time in the fourth round, there could be a possibility that by the time when we get to the fifth round, there's going to be no more USL Championship side or even League One's side by then. So I like how what the U.S. Soccer Federation, or how the draw eventually turned out. But again, when you look at how the draw, of course, what was turned out, which the draw that they did, it was kind of weird in some ways, but it was also kind of regionalized. So the matchup that we were getting, we knew that some of the matchup was going to be the case it is, and that we didn't really get like a matchup where an Eastern Conference team basically plays against a Western Conference team because of the way that it's been regionalized. But moving on into the last news of this news of the week is that MLS, of course, in this All-Star game that's going to be happening in August, and as I mentioned, they're going to be facing a familiar foe because they're once again going to be playing against a Liga MX All-Star team in the All-Star game. And again, I'm really hoping, because that is the case, let's hope the tickets is not going to be as expensive. I mean, last season, the tickets were very expensive because it is in LA, but because this one is in Minnesota, I'm thinking that the tickets are not going to be as expensive as we've seen in LA, though I don't know if that's going to be the case, considering, they're playing at Allianz Field, one of the newest stadium, and in my opinion, the best stadium right now in MLS. But, this is definitely a game that I am going to, and I know I said before how I don't always rate the MLS All-Star game, and I feel like it's kind of a cash cow. But after watching last year's MLS All-Star versus Liga MX All-Star, not only that is something that fans been wanted for a very long time, but I just kind of feel like that game didn't really felt like an All-Star game. That game felt like kind of reunite a rivalry between MLS and Liga MX, and that it really kind of just shows that in that game, even if it's just an exhibition game, both of these teams really care. Like they really want to play for the pride of their league, and that I'm definitely going to want to experience that, especially in person. And again, I'm hoping that that's going to be the case. I mean, I'm already going to be about to book my flight to Minneapolis in August, and soon when the tickets does start to announce, I got to make sure I'm going to buy the tickets, because I have a feeling the tickets might be sold out very fast, especially with the way that since this is going to be taking place at Allianz Field, there's going to be less seats. That's going to be be available in this one compared to last year when it was at Bank of California Stadium. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the news that happened in this past weekend. If there's any news I didn't mention, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.